Oh. Oh. Sometimes I talk to my atheist, antichrist, godless, hell-bound self. That person, that old man that I was before God made me a new creation. For my conversion, for my reversion. When I was chasing pleasure and running away from pain, I talked to that person. Because apart from God's grace, I will quickly return to being that person. If you want to believe in once saved, always saved, fine. You're wasting your breath to try and convince me of that. I know better. I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. Well, we're all stupid. We're all fools apart from God's grace. So, if you're taking it that I'm referring to you as stupid, then just rest assured, however stupid you are, I'm stupider. And there you go. Apart from God's grace, we're lost. There's just death. Fortunately, God swallowed death. And by conquering death, we now can conquer death. We can conquer sin. We can enter into communion with God and receive everlasting life. But because I know I'm only one venial sin away from getting to another venial sin, and then to a mortal sin, and then being separating myself from the grace of God, just as our first parents did in paradise, losing that justice of God, losing that sanctifying grace. Because I know how vulnerable I am, sometimes I preemptively go to battle with that damned fool that has been converted and reverted into the wisdom of God. So when I'm talking to myself, placing myself to the best of my ability in that place of despair, where you start to question God and seek answers from God, if I listen carefully and look carefully at that, I can see that it's not seeking answers from God that's happening in that place of despair. It's seeking God to answer to me. And oftentimes seeking God to answer to me because I'm just clouded, either in my temptation or in my succumbing to sin, to separation from God. And rather than just dive deep into the burning fire of God's love and allow that to burn away all the despair, to convert the suffering into redemptive suffering, to be united to Christ and his sacrifice, to participate in his agony. I shrink God to fit into my tiny little foolish brain. I once spoke to a madman. He had lost his mind, and he was soaring off into his insanity, probably dancing with the devil at the time. And as I realized it, it called to my mind, I think it was either in Orthodoxy or heretics, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it was Orthodoxy. It's at the beginning. It's one of those two of G.K. Chesterton. But it called to my mind when he was talking to a madman. So I decided to just do what he did and see what happens. Well, he didn't do it, but he made an observation. So I decided to see if that observation that G.K. Chesterton had was correct. And I asked this madman, "How big are you?" And his eyes just, you could see the insanity. He was lost in himself. He held out his arms and he said, "Beyond these fingertips, to the ends of the cosmos." I said, okay, that checks out. That's kind of the line of thinking that G.K. Chesterton was putting forward. And then I asked him, "And how big is God?" And he shrinked his fingers to where there was just a sliver of light in between them. And that's what we do when we expect God to answer to us, when God's got to pass our test. I've failed many times with that. And that's a fool. But we should go for the wisdom and the grace of Job, of Michael, the archangel, Saint Michael. Who is like God? Who am I to expect answers from the God who creates and holds in existence every hair on my head, holds in existence every inch and every ounce of creation from beginning to end? How worthy of hell that disposition is. So if you have a chip on your shoulder, if you're angry at God, or a chip on your shoulder, or angry at Christianity or the Catholic Church, then first have yourself answered to God. First, remove all the sin that may be clouding your eyes and plugging up your ears and fogging up your brain that's so clever with foolishness. Become Catholic, receive the sacrament of reconciliation, receive the Holy Eucharist, and then you know what happens? That urge to have God answer to you starts to go away. And then you can follow the path of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. And you can tell God, if it be your will that I end up in hell, then only allow me to love you, and I will gladly go. Correspond to God's grace. Conform to God's will. And allow God to make you perfect, so that you stop thinking like a fool and start thinking like a bride. Abide the fire.